So, spawning here in the top left-hand position as the red Zerg player, representing Team Acer, it's ParanOid. And his opponent to the top right, the blue Terran from mYi, JJakji. So, JJakji was able to win game number 1, as I realized I actually set the scoreboard the wrong way around. There we go. So JJakji 1-0 up in this best of 3. For those just joining us now, this is the ESL Euroseries semi-finals, mYi versus Acer. Currently, Acer is 1-0 up in the best of 5 between the teams, and that was because Scala was able to 2-0 Dana in a ZvZ. JJakji though, doing a good job, at least so far, of starting to level that out. If he's able to win this map, it would mean that he was able to give mYi their first point, mean that we see all 5 series tonight. Generally have a good time. Now, ParanOid game number 1. He was looking alright. He took a bit of damage early on from JJakji being very aggressive with the 2 Reaper, 4 Hellion play. He then tried to get some roaches out to be safe, and he was very safe at that point, but unfortunately his third was delayed due to the pressure. And JJakji was just greedy. With the pressure and harassment he was throwing out, he was able to get up his third command center exceptionally early, and that let him get a great economy, and he just pumped out units. He was defensive early, but once he started getting those medevacs, he went on the aggressive and was just able to work away at ParanOid. This game, JJakji taking a slightly different approach, opening command center first. It's safe to do when you make it as part of this wall off. Even if there was an early pull being thrown down by ParanOid, it wouldn't get through it. Meanwhile, over at ParanOid's side, he's gone hatch first and goes for the gold as well. This is one of the really cool things about a habitation station, is this gold base. It's a big risk, but a big reward. It's very easy to get dropped. That's a problem. We also have seen in one of the previous games I've cast a nice little play by Terran to put some tanks down in this position. And then a bunker. And that means the Zerg player can't get ground, and actually tanks from there can shell that third hatch. It's a brave move taking it, and if JJakji for some reason doesn't scout it, it very well may pay off. But if JJakji sees it, ParanOid will be behind in this game, so a lot rides on whether JJakji sees that third base or not. He's gonna realise immediately that these timings are perhaps a little later than they should be with that third coming down. Depends how well JJakji knows the game, and I'm gonna guess, being a GSL champion, or former GSL champion, he knows it very well. He'll know when that spawning pool is meant to finish. I wouldn't be at all surprised to see if he dashes his way up in towards that third. He comes and checks the other third base already. That just basically says that he knows something's up. Whether he checks to the gold base or not, whether he thinks ParanOid would be that bold, we're about to see, but it seems that no, he doesn't. Suspecting ParanOid is not that ballsy, but he certainly is. Checks his own gold third. I have never seen that, but I imagine it's the sort of thing that could catch you off guard, is that it could get taken and you wouldn't realise for quite a while. But ParanOid now, with that third up, he's got the first drones coming through. JJakji takes his own third base. He's also adding on a reactor to that barracks for the factory. Hellion production going to be coming through, but for the moment, just 2 Marines and 2 Zerglings battling it out around this center watchtower. Note the center watchtower, and this is actually quite a big thing. I don't actually believe it can see that creep thread. It might just catch the edge of it now. It's ridiculously close either way. Yeah, it should do. Okay, so now if this watchtower is held, straight away JJakji knows that his opponent's gold has been taken. But if, like we've got now, ParanOid is able to hold this, it won't get scouted. Now, 1 Marine pushing back this Overlord to prevent any scouting information coming through. But now the tank is on its way out. JJakji, I think, suspects that this base could have been taken. And that's a very smart move. Getting that tank down, as I mentioned previously, can really utilise the positioning of this map. A siege tank there is able to shell the hatchery as long as high ground vision is down. That's when you do need the high ground vision, obviously, but medevacs can supply that. Even a floating building can supply that, which is going to be very powerful if JJakji can get in a good position. Spine Crawler, though, from ParanOid means that he's getting a little safer, trying to be cautious about what's coming out. JJakji, with his double engineering bay, isn't doing anything too risky for the time being. He's just getting double upgrades, got his third CC down, and this tank is predominantly out on the field for the moment to be defensive. And that's because JJakji still has no idea. Oh no, he's seen. He knows. He's seen creep spread. Okay, JJakji knows this gold has been taken. I should have realized that earlier, but what this means is JJakji's now responding to it. One tank is down. He's now getting some helium production out, as well as getting his 1-1 infantry upgrades. Probably started very soon. There we go, +1 infantry armor. Meanwhile, ParanOid starts his own double evolution chamber and also gets down a baneling nest. This is a variation from the first game. Game number 1, we saw ParanOid go for the Rotoron as opposed to the baneling nest early on, and that's where a lot of his gas went. We also saw ParanOid wait until a lot later in the game in order to get down his numerized carapace or overlord speed, whereas this game, quite clearly, he's got it nice and early on to get some good scouting. The tank hasn't, well, it has now been seen, so therefore ParanOid may be a little careful about defending this position. We already see creep spread making its way forward. Queens and a spine also getting up on in there. But for the time being, not too much is really to be said. They're both just macroing up, getting their tech in a good position, solidifying their economy, trying to poke and prod here and there, specifically JJakji, but ParanOid just able to maintain his current momentum. And with this third gold base, he has got an astronomical amount of mineral income. But JJakji's going to respond with that by taking his own gold. While mules don't mind bonus gold or bonus minerals from a gold, like the good old days, they are still just as good for the SCVs, and therefore JJakji's own income isn't going to be too far behind, and getting a lot of mineral income is very solid for a Terran player who's going infantry with a bit of mech support, be it a tank or probably later a few Widow Mines. And that's because so much of JJakji's army is in the form of Marines, so more minerals equals more Marines equals GG. At least most people you ask would say that. But of course this is ParanOid also sitting in a very comfortable spot. He's got his Spire already on its way down, taking a 4th. His economy, his drone count is a bit lower than it would normally be, it's worth noting. He's sitting at 64 drones on 3 bases, which now is normal-ish, but generally you see Zerg players get a bit higher than that. But the gold base is more than making up for that. Both players mining a significant amount of minerals per minute. And with that much higher mineral income, we're going to see the armies really start to skyrocket. But JJakji now moving forward. Note the tank already in a good spot to start shelling away, but Zergling's coming from behind, able to snipe it down, meaning that suddenly ParanOid's gold base is safe-ish. But JJakji, as he moves forward, is able to force retreat out of those 2 queens, and he boosts not into the 3rd, where ParanOid may have been expecting, but instead straight up towards the main base. A lot of overlords flying over, they're going to get killed if ParanOid isn't too careful, but JJakji forced to get a quick lift, retreat relatively promptly. Even though there are Mutalisks down, he's got to be careful of queens there, but just backs out, didn't really do too much damage. Got 4 workers killed. ParanOid has killed 4 SCVs this game. JJakji has done no worker damage as of yet to his opponent. Now, if things are able to keep going, well, that's when actually it's a little scary for JJakji, because ParanOid, he's got a solid economy, he's got consistent income, and has done for a long time. He took a risk early on with the hatch pool build, especially at the gold, but it's now working for him. The reason that doesn't pay off is if you lose that base early on, but it's been up more than long enough to justify its existence and to have been a massive benefit to what ParanOid's been trying to do. JJakji, though, has now got his own 3rd. He's also got a missile drone in a good spot, able to pick off a Mutalisk for free. Questionable control there from ParanOid, but a little misstep like that is so easy to make. But JJakji's missile turret now with a kill on there already, more than paid for itself, and keeps that Mutaflock a little bit lower. ParanOid, though, coming from the back, is going to try and pick off a couple of SCVs, dealing some nice damage to that orbital command, but with Widow Mines and Marines moving forward, a retreat is inevitable. The 2-2 upgrades on the way out for JJakji, but 1-1 is already completed for ParanOid. He's starting his 2-2. That's about 100 seconds later than that of JJakji's, and that's a relatively large window of opportunity that we may see JJakji try to exploit. But for the moment, JJakji moving forward, he's got a decent number of medevacs, a good Widow Mine count, and not to mention quite a scary looking army. However, ParanOid is actually matching that. Their supplies very similar. JJakji slightly up, but only by a fraction. Banelings can quickly fix that for ParanOid. Good splits though coming down from JJakji. Zerglings making their way in just to follow up on this pressure. The medevac count alright, but just the bailing hits were so good. Able to take down a lot of the infantry. And JJakji not splitting as well as he did in that first game. Much better engagement for ParanOid there. And that's where JJakji is now forced to pull back and regroup. ParanOid, busy on 4 bases, producing a lot of stuff. His +1 flyer attack has now completed, meaning those Mutalisks hit a little bit harder, but they don't take any more damage without the carapace upgrade for the Mutas, which, in fairness, you hardly ever see. The Marines really start hurting, especially if they get 3-3 down. There are 2-2 at the moment, and 3-3 is only just now getting begun. But even with the +2 infantry attack, without any flyer carapace, Mutalisks melt to Marines if they engage head-on, and that's something the ParanOid has to be careful about preventing from happening. So, the Mutalisks poking, prodding, trying to find a little angle that they can sneak on in by, deal a little bit of harassment. And it's exactly how you should be playing a Mutalisk build, is using them very actively on the map. The agility and mobility of Mutalisks is really their biggest asset, and it's forcing JJakji to be back and defensive, but also preventing him from defending these bunkers. And now in comes a decent number of Zerglings and Banelings up towards the gold base. The Banelings are going to get some very big detonations here straight away. A lot of SCVs are taken down, and this is problematic for JJakji. ParanOid, though, he's taking damage at his own 4th as JJakji goes for a drop, but JJakji's 4th is also being assaulted. Good damage being achieved for both players at the moment, but I would actually put that engagement in favor of ParanOid, who was able to take out a significant number of JJakji's SCVs. He's also shut down the drop, didn't lose a base, but while JJakji didn't lose a base, that SCV count dropping is painful. JJakji spending his resources effectively. Macro master, as we can see, just moving across the map. Banelings are morphing in. There's only one Baneling currently out on the field, and if JJakji's able to take a lot of these morphing ones out, it is going to be a little frustrating. But the Zerglings flooding in from all angles. The Mutalisks from the top, big hits are getting made by those Banelings, but the Widowmines attempting to thin out their numbers. Good splits from JJakji. He shuts down some of that pressure. Note he kept a few Banelings at the front of the army in order to try and trigger some Baneling hits. But all in all, while ParanOid has lost slightly more resources than that of JJakji, he's also got a solid income, especially way more gas. Now, plowing through with these Mutas. Remember, the Mutalisks do have the +2 attack upgrade, meaning they can trade against those towers very simply. Decimates that gold-based mineral line. Lots of SCVs dying. About another 6 SCVs went down there, as well as those 2 missile turrets, preventing mining. But it's this push coming from the south that I'm concerned about for JJakji. If that 4th base gets some big Bane detonations in its mineral line, that's where his SCV count vanishes. So, still the Mutas poking in, pulling out, poking in, pulling out, trying to prevent JJakji from getting in a position where he's able to defend. He's just got vision. Oh my goodness, that is so pro by JJakji. He sees a couple of Banelings morphing. That's why these Widowmines coming back. And just by a single hex or 2, we see JJakji alerted to the potential danger that's coming in. Such great placement of that Marine. Note Acer's ParanOid cannot see it. JJakji now doesn't actually know that any of these units are in position, but just by having it, he gets himself into a solid spot. In though comes the might of the swarm. JJakji stims up, tries to pull back and split his Marines and infantry away from those Banelings. He's able to force a retreat from the Zerg player currently. Also going to chase them down more. Nice amount of damage. A lot of Banelings are getting picked off. Very effective play by JJakji at the moment. He's continuing on. He's got good momentum. Going to be chasing down those Banelings and those Mutalisks. The good play by the Mutalisks, though, is sniping off any reinforcements that come through. Any little bit of damage they get is a good win. Unfortunately, for JJakji, ParanOid has got his 5th base. He's staying a base up. This is a much closer game than the first. However, JJakji is still looking strong. He's applying pressure at just the right points. JJakji's the sort of player who is precise with every movement he makes, and that's what we're seeing. Denying expansions now, whittling down the Zerg army, and then pulling back. But with the Mutalisks coming through from the top right, we can see that actually the infantry of JJakji starts to melt. The Zerglings on the ground deal a good amount of damage, but it should all get cleaned up The Mutalisks now pulling back. The one thing that JJakji doesn't have at the moment is a maxed out force. He's only at 150 supply, which is the same as that of his opponent, but he still wants to be looking to max out. He's got 3-3, that's the massive benefit. And as we quite often see in Zerg versus Terran games, the Zerg player hasn't even started 3-3 yet, because the Hive isn't out. This is 21.5 minutes into the game. It's a semi-final for the ESL Euroseries, and ParanOid needs to start looking for that Hive. He can't stay on Muta, Zergling, Baneling indefinitely. It won't trade well late game. He needs some Ultras ideally out in order to tank up some of the Widowmine hits and some of the damage and omnom their way through the infantry army, should they be allowed to close up that distance. But instead, we see ParanOid staying. Oh, as I say that, boom, down comes the Hive, exactly what we want. And it means that now, actually ParanOid does have a later game plan. JJakji though, he's expanding to his own 5th base now. He sniped off ParanOids earlier, if you recall, and with that snipe off, he knocked his opponent on equal bases again. Both players battling it out hard. A couple of very nice Widowmine hits though, could be a problem. Many Mutalisks went down there, big detonations, such nice placement from JJakji, and of course, with that, a significant amount of resources were lost, 100 for more Mutalisks. Unfortunately, JJakji also taking some losses up at his gold base too, as Banelings come rolling in and a handful of Lings are also in the mix. A Thor will even die and many more SCVs are getting killed off. At the south though, at the 5th base angle, we've got the Mutalisks trying to poke and prod, try and do some damage, but JJakji thwarting their every attempt. At the same time though, Banelings are making their way forward. They get some all-eye connections, but it's the drop down to the bottom left of the map, and this is where JJakji starts going to town. His multitasking really starting to flare up, forcing and pulling these Mutalisks back in order to try and deal with them. But that opens up the top of the map to JJakji. Knowing the Mutalisks are down there, he's heading straight towards that gold base, which, yes, it's mined out, but it's still 2 active gas geysers. JJakji getting some good damage done, picking off the morphing Banelings. ParanOid down to 83 army supply to 131. Yes, he's got still a lot of Mutalisks out, but if he keeps flying them over, Widowmine flocks, it's not going to last much longer. Those Mutalisks, currently 22 of them on the field, need to try and find a good angle to attack, but the Thor and Widowmine so scary for them. They've got to be very careful any way they move in, but they can't just sit back. They've either got to be dealing some damage or defending against some damage, because JJakji, he smells blood. He's moving forward, going in for the kill, and it's unfortunate for ParanOid that his army just has dropped off that critical mass that he needs in order to stop this. JJakji moving on up into the natural base. He wants to end this fast. The Mutalisks, though, for ParanOid, have done some good damage, but it's not enough. GG is called, and JJakji will take the series 2-0 and levels up the ESL Euroseries semi-final 1-1 for mYi up against Acer.